The driver of the mule, David Red Eagle, was old. Unbelievably old if his own recollections of the past were to be accepted. His obsidian eyes sparkled with youth and intelligence, though, belying the deep lines at the corners which extended, cratering his cheeks into vistas to rival the Grand Canyon. He stopped short of the airplane, released and drew forward a winch cable, and attached the hook in a pad-eye under the tail. Returning to his seat on the mule, he towed the airplane into the bowels of the mountain and activated a switch to close the camouflaged hangar doors. A tall, black-haired young man stepped from the Helio Courier, carrying a map case and thermos bottle. His dark eyes glanced over the cavernous space, a gleam of satisfaction in them as he looked at Red Eagle. He greeted the old Indian in Cheyenne, and together they walked to an elevator shaft. They emerged into a brightly lighted, spacious lounging room, broad swaths of the desert visible through floor-to-ceiling picture windows. The view was an illusion.
"Tricks,"
their designer, Willard Haskins, was fond of saying.
"Just some tinkering around with prisms and polarized light."
From outside, not a trace of the stronghold could be seen.
"Mark,"
the owner and creator of the stronghold called from the bar, extending a hand in greeting.
"Good to have you home. You leave the pickup at Riverside? What'll you have to drink?"
"How about a pina colada with Appletons?" Mark Harden answered as he crossed to the bar, his face softened by an expression of genuine fondness. Willard Haskins, retired geology professor from USC, winced.
"Damn, no pineapple juice."
"Use a packaged mix," Mark suggested.
"Sacrilege. Nothing but chemicals. Rot a man's insides,"
the professor grumbled, scandalized to the fringe of white hair that encircled his balding pate, reaching with one hand for the rum bottle while the other grasped the Holland House cocktail mix box.
"It was rough?"
he asked, referring to Mark's last mission. "Rotten. I about disassembled that new Ford pickup racing around the Colorado mountains. What kind of conditions spawn degenerates like those in the Atomic Reassessment Consortium?" Mark sighed heavily. "Remind me that if anyone ever again suggests knocking over a load of nuclear materials, I want to shoot him first and ask questions later."
"They say Colorado is lovely this time of year,"
Professor Haskins replied, handing Mark his drink. The younger man snorted through his nose. Since Mark Harden's discharge from the Army and the end of his war in Vietnam, he had been fighting another brand of battle. He was still the competent combat soldier, most definitely the highly skilled intelligence operative, and by far a more seasoned assassin than many others he had led in and out of enemy territory. The only difference now was that his missions weren't for the government, nor local authorities for that matter. Mark Harden, the man the press had dubbed the Penetrator, worked for himself. He had become, through the exigencies of necessity and ability, a freelance judge of the crimes of those who gorged themselves on the lives and property of the little guy. The parasites came in various sizes and types. They could be crooked cops, like the ones the Penetrator had purged in Seattle, or mafia bosses, several of whom had fallen to the snarl of Mark's .45 automatic or other equally deadly devices in the Penetrator's arsenal. Or they might be independents, out to take with both hands corrupt politicians, judges, welfare workers, or like Colonel King and the secret army training on a magnolia-scented plantation outside Atlanta, preparing to bring America a new order. 20 times so far, the Penetrator had struck. Mark Harden shook his head with near resignation at the thought of so much blood, so many bodies, the seemingly eternal violence. But it was his trade, the job he did best and had so far done the longest. 2 hitches with the Army, a double tour of Nam notwithstanding, seemed child's play, a sojourn in a high school military academy, compared to the battles fought from Los Angeles to France, Canada to Panama. 13 states and 7 foreign countries had hosted, no matter how reluctantly, visits by the Penetrator. Hundreds of persons lived today because he fought the impossible battle and survived. Other hundreds had departed this life, unlamented.